Good afternoon, I'm Leila Massimova and you're watching A News. Now, the major stories make headlines today. Car plows through Vancouver Filipino festival, killing at least 11 people. North Korea confirmed for the first time on Monday that it has sent troops to fight for Russia in the war with Ukraine. At least 60 people were killed and dozens injured in a U.S. airstrike on a migrant detention center in Yemen. A tragic incident struck a Filipino street festival in Vancouver when a man drove into a crowd, killing at least 11 people. Authorities have confirmed that the attack was not linked to terrorism. A 30-year-old man who has a significant history of mental health-related interactions with police was arrested at the scene and is now in custody.
Incident in Vancouver at a Filipino street festival was not an act of terrorism, Vancouver police said, after at least 11 people were killed when a man drove into a crowd on Saturday evening. The incident occurred shortly after 8 p.m. local time near the Lapu-Lapu Day block party. Eyewitnesses described a chaotic scene with victims scattered across the street.
A lone suspect, subject male with one vehicle, drove through a crowded community event occurring near here. That male was taken into custody at the scene by the crowd. It was a Filipino community event. The crowd immediately called police. We then took custody of the subject, and he is now in our custody.
I don't even know what to say. This was a great day. Wonderful event. Huge community event. And to have it end in tragedy like this, it won't break us or the community, but it's horrible.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said on X, "I am devastated to hear about the horrific events at the Lapu-Lapu Festival in Vancouver earlier this evening." Vancouver's Mayor Ken Sim and British Columbia Premier David Eby posted similar comments on X. The festival, celebrating Filipino heritage and honouring 16th century leader Lapu-Lapu, had attracted thousands of attendees.
A Vancouver neighbourhood is in mourning as tributes grow at the site of a deadly vehicle attack that claimed 11 lives during a Filipino festival.
Grieving residents gathered on Sunday to lay flowers and pay tribute at a growing memorial near the scene of a deadly vehicle attack during a Filipino community festival in Vancouver. The memorial, marked by floral tributes, handwritten messages, and emotional embraces, formed near the site where at least 11 people were killed and dozens more injured after a man drove an SUV into a crowd on Saturday evening. People stood in silence, some visibly emotional, while others added bouquets and personal tokens, including a plush toy and a Philippine flag wrapped around white carnations. Signs expressing solidarity and love were placed at the site, as the community struggled to process the tragedy. Police officers continued to canvass the neighbourhood, going door to door in search of eyewitnesses. A heavy security presence remained near the cordoned-off area along Fraser Street, where the incident took place during a local celebration honouring Philippine national hero Lapu-Lapu. Authorities arrested a 30-year-old Vancouver man at the scene and confirmed he had a history of mental health issues. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has visited Vancouver, meeting with local officials and community members to offer his condolences and support.
A deadly car attack occurred on the eve of the federal elections in Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney post-election campaigning after the tragedy in Vancouver. The issue of labour and tariffs and the highlight of this campaign.
Canadians will head to the polls on Monday for a federal election that could reshape the country's future at home and abroad. The race pits Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney, a former central bank governor, against Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, whose populist campaign has resonated with young voters frustrated by high living costs. The Liberals are slightly ahead, with 40.5% support compared to 37.5% for the Conservatives. The election comes amid unprecedented tensions with the United States. US President Donald Trump's controversial remarks about Canada have jolted the political landscape.
You've all given so much, but I'm going to use my hockey analogy again. We are down to 2 minutes in Game 7 for the Stanley Cup. We need to leave everything on the ice. So a few more door knocks, a few more phone calls, a few more conversations, a few more conversions. We want everyone possible to support us, regardless of which party they've supported in the past. The country's coming together. We can win.
Carney has campaigned on strengthening Canadian sovereignty and diversifying economic ties beyond the US market. Poilievre, while critical of Trump's tariffs, has offered a more cautious response. His focus remains on reducing taxes, cutting bureaucracy and making housing more affordable, key issues particularly among younger Canadians.
We are voting for change because we love this country and we want every single person to have the promise of Canada, that anyone who works hard can have a great life in a beautiful, affordable home, on a safe street, under our proud flag. That's the change we need. That's the hope we offer. Now let's vote to bring it home.
Donald Trump re-emerged as a factor in Canada's election campaign earlier this week after he declared that the United States did not need Canadian-made autos and said he might increase tariffs on vehicles imported from Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney paused election campaigning after at least 9 people were killed when a man drove through a crowd at a community festival in Vancouver. Both Carney and Poilievre issued statements of condolence. Polls open nationwide tomorrow at 9 a.m. local time and close at 9:30 p.m, with results expected late Monday night.
In New Jersey, President Donald Trump called on Russia to halt its attacks on Ukraine after a key meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican. Trump also shared his views on U.S. support for Ukraine and his disappointment with Russia's actions.
President Donald Trump urged Russia to stop its attacks in Ukraine, while his top diplomat said the United States might walk away from peace efforts if it does not see progress. Speaking to reporters in New Jersey, Trump said he was disappointed that Russia has continued to attack Ukraine and said his one-on-one meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican on Saturday had gone well.
He needs more weapons, but he's been saying that for 3 years, He needs more weapons, and we're going to see what happens. I want to see what happens with respect to Russia, because Russia had been surprised and disappointed, very disappointed that they did the bombing of those places after discussions.
Trump and Zelensky, who were in Rome for the funeral of Pope Francis, met in a Vatican basilica on Saturday to try to revive faltering efforts to end the war in Ukraine. The meeting was the first between the two leaders since an angry encounter in the White House Oval Office in February, and comes at a critical time in negotiations aimed at bringing an end to the conflict. Answering to the questions of reporters, he mentioned about his relationship with President Zelensky after that meeting.
It was never bad. We had a little dispute because I disagreed with something he said, and the cameras were rolling, and that was okay with me. But we had a dispute. But look, he's in a tough situation, a very tough situation. He's fighting a much bigger force, much bigger. And that force has not been very distinguished, It's been a lot tougher than they thought, but it helped them when we gave them $350 billion worth of weapons or cash.
The US president also addressed the future of Crimea.
Is Zelensky ready to give up Crimea, do you think, Mr. President? Oh, I think so, yeah. Look, Crimea was 12 years ago. That was President Obama. They gave it up without a shot being fired. So don't talk to me about Crimea. Talk to Obama and Biden about Crimea.
I was just wondering what Zelensky thought.
And remember, this is Biden's war. This isn't Trump's war. I came in to try and solve a problem. And the problem is so many people are being killed.
Trump rebuked Russian President Vladimir Putin after that meeting, saying on social media that there is no reason for Russia to shoot missiles into civilian areas.
And a major escalation of its support for Russia. North Korea has admitted for the first time that it deployed troops to fight in the Ukraine war, part of a growing military alliance sought by a treaty between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin.
North Korea has officially confirmed it sent troops to fight alongside Russia in the Ukraine war, marking the first public acknowledgement of its direct military involvement. According to state media, leader Kim Jong-un approved the deployment under a strategic partnership treaty signed with Russian President Vladimir Putin last year. North Korea claimed its forces played a key role in helping Russia regain control of the Kursk region. According to Ukrainian officials, an estimated 14,000 North Korean troops were sent, including 3,000 reinforcements. Lacking armored vehicles and drone warfare experience, they took heavy casualties but adapted quickly. Earlier, Russia confirmed North Korean troops fought in the region, highlighting growing military ties between the two nations.
And now joining us is Enrique Cosero, political analyst from Madrid. Good afternoon, Mr. Cosero.
Good afternoon to you.
Mr. Cosero, if I may ask, what are the key implications of the recent Trump-Zelensky meeting at the Vatican, particularly for U.S. involvement in Russia-Ukraine conflict resolution?
It's quite paradoxical, right? Because right now we are in the same situation that we were three or 4 months ago when Donald Trump arrived to the U.S. presidency. And I mean by that U.S. is very prone to accept that Crimea keep on the Russian side officially, which is quite different, but that was one of the first conditions for getting involved into the peace process by Donald Trump. So right now the position is, okay, you have to leave Crimea to the Russians, probably certain parts of the Donbass, which, in my opinion, finally is going to be the whole region to connect, in order to connect Crimea with Russia, and probably something that I think we forgot, which is the rare earths that the United States could freely mine in Ukraine. So right now we're in a position in which considerations and demands are more or less the same that 4 months ago, but without all the noise and without all the aggressive positions that we were watching 4 months ago.
And as we know, North Korea for the first time confirmed deploying troops to Russia to fight in the Ukraine war. Can North Korea's involvement in the Russia-Ukraine alter the regional security dynamics?
For me, the involvement of North Korea in the Ukrainian war is more kind of a solidification of the Russian-North Korean alliance. I mean, it's sort of Vladimir Putin saying to Kim Jong-un, okay, I need your support, and we need to prove that you are behind us and you are giving us the help that we need in order to make the threat more credible, right? Which connects with the things that I was saying 1 minute ago. It looks like everything is going back to the same situation that it was 4 or 3 months ago, in which nobody has any kind of doubt that North Korea is an ally of Russia as much China is. the role of China is maybe more, I don't know how to say it, subtle in this situation, or not as evident as North Korea, but Putin is coming back to, after all that noise and after all those movements, in order to prove that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, they were close and they were talking frequently, and they were trying to get a very good deal in order to end the war on Ukraine. Right now is sort of okay. Donald Trump is calling for a peace treaty to Vladimir Putin and the end of any aggression, and Vladimir Putin by his side is reaching new deals and reaching new agreements with North Korea and China, which I can say, okay, everything is going back to normal.
Thank you for your insightful answers, Mr. Cosero.
My pleasure.
At least 68 people were killed and dozens more injured in a U.S. airstrike on a migrant detention center in Yemen's Sa'ada region, according to Houthi-affiliated media. The facility reportedly housing African migrants was among several locations hit in and around the capital, Sana'a, with additional casualties reported. The U.S. military has not yet commented on the incident. The Sa'ada facility held migrants from countries like Ethiopia who often travel through Yemen in hopes of reaching Saudi Arabia for work. The death toll from the explosion at Iran's largest port, Bandar Abbas, has risen to 14. More than 1,200 people were injured. Rescue operations are still underway. The massive blast hit the Shahid Raja'i section of Iran's Bandar Abbas port. Authorities say chemical materials likely caused the explosion, halting operations at one of Iran's most important trade hubs. President Masoud Pezeshkian has ordered an investigation and sent his interior minister to oversee emergency efforts. Relief teams and firefighting planes are working to control the fires while trucks are being evacuated. The world continues to mourn Pope Francis, from the historic funeral in Rome to the fast visitors at his simple tomb. People are paying tribute to the late pontiff who led the Catholic Church for 12 years.
Hundreds of people queued on Sunday in Rome as the tomb of late Pope Francis in St. Mary Major Basilica opened to the public. The Vatican released images of the Pope's tomb showing a simple marble slab that reads Franciscus. Above it, a replica of his plain iron cross symbolizes the humility he embraced throughout his life. Pope Francis, who led the Catholic Church for 12 years, chose to be buried at the Basilica of St. Mary Major instead of the traditional papal crypt at St. Peter's. Visitors spoke of their admiration for Francis's humble spirit.
Well, I feel like it's exactly in the way how was the Pope. So he was simple, and so it's his place now.
Meanwhile, around 200,000 people packed St. Peter's Square for a mass in the pontiff's memory, led by Cardinal Pietro Parolin. The ceremony marked the second day of the traditional Novendiali prayers that follow a pope's death. In Barcelona, a spectacular drone show lit up the night sky, creating emotional images of Pope Francis to honor his memory.
It was spectacular and emotional to be able to live this moment and to think that he's no longer with us. It was very beautiful.
Pope Francis, who passed away at the age of 88, was honored with a public funeral on Saturday at St. Peter's Square, attended by world leaders and hundreds of thousands of faithful. After the funeral, Francis' coffin, placed on a white Pope-mobile, made a slow procession through Rome. Around 140,000 people lined the streets, applauding as the hearse crossed the Tiber River and passed iconic sites like the Colosseum and Piazza Venezia. As mourning continues, attention now turns to the upcoming conclave to select the next leader of the Catholic Church, expected to begin in early May.
Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan visited Qatar. He met with the country's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani in Doha on Sunday as part of ongoing diplomatic efforts between Ankara and Doha. The visit comes amid close ties between Turkey and Qatar, establishing a strategic partnership since 2014. Both sides work closely on regional issues like Gaza and Syria, and bilateral trade topped $1 billion last year. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has arrived in Baku for talks with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. The visit comes as both countries look to expand cooperation and deepen their historic relationship. Our Andy Miyuk has more.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is visiting Azerbaijan at the invitation of the Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev. Aliyev greeted Pezeshkian here at the Zugulba residence, some 40 kilometers from Baku, ahead of their talks aimed at strengthening bilateral relations and cooperation. Now, ahead of this visit, Pezeshkian spoke to Azerbaijani media. A couple of things there. He said that Iran's main priority is to maintain close ties to neighboring countries. And speaking on the relations of Azerbaijan and Iran, he said there is no alien sense of alienness in the relations of the two countries, that they were close brothers in the past and will be moving forward. Such a message comes as no surprise, as a large part of the Iranian population is made up of ethnic Azerbaijani people, up to 30 million of them, the estimates say. Pezeshkian also spoke on transport cooperation, saying that Azerbaijan can be a link hub between Iran and Russia, while Iran can be a link for Azerbaijan's shipments to the Persian Gulf. And now, according to Iranian media, one of the topics that is expected to be discussed at this meeting is the international north-south transport corridor. Now, this corridor links the Black Sea and the Persian Gulf. The Iranian media say that one of the topics will be, as they say, the final missing link in the corridor, which is the railway between Astara and Rasht along the west coast of the Caspian Sea. Now, Azerbaijan's position in the north and south corridor notwithstanding, Azerbaijan already has a strong position when it comes to facilitating trade with its position on the middle corridor that connects China to Europe and vice versa, which is of great significance to Beijing. This was confirmed just last week when Chinese and Azerbaijani presidents Xi Jinping and Ilham Aliyev met in Beijing and agreed to establish a comprehensive strategic partnership to expand those ties even further. Now back to today's visit of the Iranian president. Among the main bilateral things, of course, is always the trade turnover. Now it stands at some $580 million. In 2024, it grew by 20% when compared to year before that. Some of the other expected topics of today's meetings are the abolishment of certain customs barriers to increase trade, joint oil fields in the Caspian Sea, Iran's participation in the reconstruction of liberated Azerbaijani territories, and increasing tourism. From Zugulba, for A News, Andy Miyuk.
Nearly 200 leading NGO representatives from 116 countries gathered in Baku today for the founding conference of the Global South NGO platform. Our Erkan Amashev has more from the venue.
Hello, Leila. Good afternoon to you and to all our colleagues. Indeed, today is a day when the Global South NGO Forum is taking place. Today is day one. This is the inaugural, first ever Global South NGO Forum. And actually, something very important happened today, just a few hours ago, around 11 o'clock early morning. The platform itself has been established. Its declaration was adopted. It was announced by the participants. Of course, the roots of today's developments go back to COP29, when on the 15th of November, group of NGOs from non-aligned movement countries gathered in Baku within the framework of COP29. They organized this event called Climate Action in the context of South cooperation. Back then, the joint declaration was adopted, calling for the creation of a unilateral, multilateral, inclusive mechanism, bringing Global South NGOs together in order to be able to meet the challenge related to a wide range of issues, including climate change, underdevelopment, specifically related to some of the portions of the Global South known as landlocked developing countries, least developed countries, and so forth. And over the past 6 months, the participants, the members of this embryonic emergent group have been talking to each other on a regular basis, and today the first forum began just today. And effectively, we have witnessed the institutional emergence of what is known as the Global South NGO platform. Of course, a lot of work is to be done, but consensus has been achieved today. And I think that legally speaking, this day will go down in the annals of history as a creation of Global South NGO platform. The reason why there's a need for such a platform, the reasons have been articulated and expressed by many participants. First of all, of course, its geography is very vast. It does contain countries with different interests, but fundamentally, in terms of their aspirations, they come from the same position, most of them, and that during the COP29, when the idea itself emerged, that Global South unity and consolidation were one of the central themes, and as a continuation of that, global NGOs belonging to Global South will be working together as part of the unilateral mechanism. It is expected that panel discussion will take place today with dignitaries involved, and the forum will continue tomorrow. And although the most important thing probably, and the most important thing is the establishment of this platform has happened already, certain documents will be adopted, and those documents will be testifying to the growing will of Global South countries to act together, to formulate the vision for advocacy, joint action, in order to meet the growing challenges facing all of us, not just in Global South, but actually all of us in this world. Orkan Amashov, NEws.
Now to discuss China's leadership and the Global South and the Azerbaijan-China strategic partnership deal. Joining us, Vissal Guliyev, policy advisor at the Center of Analysis of International Relations from Baku. Good afternoon, Mr. Guliyev.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation. I am pleased to join the interview, and as it mentioned, it's a nice coincidence that right now Baku is hosting the founding conference of the Global South NGO platform, the initiative which emerged from COP29 and is now evolving into a lasting platform to empower NGOs from the Global South in building freer and fairer world. And the question regarding the Chinese position in rising Global South, as we all see that China has increasingly positioned itself as a leader of the Global South, presenting itself as a voice for developing nations in global governance, trade, technology, and climate negotiations. And as we witnessed over the last 2 decades, through infrastructure and investment projects across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, that's been implemented mainly through the wider framework of Belt and Road Initiative. China is enhancing the economic ties with the Global South nations. And furthermore, the institutions like Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank and partnerships with BRICS countries are offering alternatives to the Western-led financial models and initiatives. And China is not only investing economically, but also reshaping the narrative of global governance by advocating for a more multipolar world order that benefits the entire South, the entire global South countries.
Mr. Guliyev, and if I may ask, what are the key elements of the new Azerbaijan-China strategic partnership agreement? So how does Azerbaijan fit into China's broader Belt and Road Initiative and Eurasian strategy?
Yes, thank you for the timely asked question. As we all know, in mid-2024, Azerbaijan and China already signed a strategic partnership agreement. And a few days ago, two countries also came to agreement to sign the comprehensive strategic partnership, which obviously it signals a new phase of deeper cooperation across multiple sectors and domains between two nations. And Azerbaijan, as a critical player in a middle corridor, offering China a shorter, viable and reliable secure route to Europe. And additionally, while Azerbaijan is traditionally strong in hydrocarbons, both sides, both Azerbaijan and China, are also exploring green energy projects and initiatives, which includes wind and solar cooperation. And there's also discussions are going about smart cities, smart villages, and e-commerce platforms and digital infrastructure, especially under the wider framework of China's Digital Silk Road initiative. And moreover, China has already become one of the Azerbaijan's top trading partners, and with a growing presence in sectors like agriculture, transport, and construction. And alongside all this cooperation, Azerbaijan offers China a strategic access to the Caspian Basin, to the Black Sea region, Central Asia, and beyond. And enhancing ties with Azerbaijan fits into China's broader Eurasian strategy to diversify transit routes and avoid overdependence on Russian corridors, especially in the context of the global sanction. So overall, I think China is reshaping the global South development agenda through investment, diplomacy, and initiatives. And meanwhile, Azerbaijan and China's strategic partnership, a comprehensive strategic partnership, represents a timely alignment of interest from connectivity, energy, and digital cooperation, which makes Azerbaijan a key player in China's broader Eurasian vision.
Thank you, Mr. Guliyev. During his state visit to China, President Aliyev spoke to China Global Television Network, outlining the growing strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and China, their economic collaboration along major transport corridors, and their shared commitment to the principles of sovereignty and multilateralism.
So that was a very important milestone in our cooperation.
In his interview to China Global Television Network, CGTN, President Aliyev underlined the strength of political ties between the two countries, particularly following the signing of the Declaration on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership.
Our countries demonstrate solidarity and friendship on the issues of national interests. We strongly support each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We strongly support one China policy, and we were among the first countries which publicly and openly denounced the illegal elections in Taiwan. Other part of declaration cover broad range of issues, starting from trade, transportation, people-to-people contacts, humanitarian partnership, and of course, our joint initiative. So the substance of this document is very important. So signing a declaration with such a country is really an important achievement for Azerbaijan. I can tell you that Azerbaijan signed declaration on strategic partnership with many countries in our region and also with some European countries, but China is the strongest among them. So that's why I think the extreme importance of this document, once again, is obvious.
Turning to economic cooperation, President Aliyev emphasized Azerbaijan's ambitions within China's Belt and Road Initiative. He highlighted the country's strategic location and extensive transport infrastructure as key assets in developing business opportunities along major trade corridors.
With respect to the Belt and Road, for us, this initiative is not only a kind of a transit route. We want to build businesses en route, because our geographical location is advantageous. We are situated on east-west and north-south transportation corridors, and with respect to connectivity, we built already all infrastructure: railroads, seaports, highways, 8 international airports. We have one of the biggest on global scale air cargo company. So our target is to build business en route, and of course we count on Chinese companies. Less than a week ago at the business forum, there have been different companies from both countries, and they signed investment agreements to Azerbaijan worth more than $300 million. I said today to my colleagues that for us it's a good number, but I think it can be bigger.
President Aliyev also stressed Azerbaijan's commitment to promoting the interests of the Global South, noting China's leadership role in supporting sovereignty, equality and multilateralism in global affairs.
Azerbaijan is an active member of Global South. We demonstrated it not only in non-alignment movement chairmanship, but also as a president of COP. We are president of COP29, and we held a COP29 conference where I personally strongly defended the interests of Global South and raised the concern of countries of Global South with respect to the existential, to some countries, threat with respect to climate change. And we in Azerbaijan consider China as a leader of Global South. So this is a special role which we think China is playing, uniting countries among particularly those principles of non-aligned movement, so-called Bandung principles. They actually reflect all what you said, plus sovereignty, territorial integrity, non-interference into internal affairs, equality, and multilateralism, and no domination of any country or group of countries. So this is a principle which is very close to us, and we defend it, protecting our national interests and being a very active member of international community.
President Aliyev's remarks come amid a wider strengthening of Azerbaijan-China relations, marked by mutual support for sovereignty, expanded economic cooperation and shared global values.
Thanks for spending a moment with A News. Until we meet again.